residents asserted that the Pangbosh Monastery housed the skull of a Yeti. During an expedition, visitors traveled to this monastery and obtained a strand of hair from the supposed Yeti skull. Altogether, 7 missions reported encountering such footprints in the late 1930s. Among them, 2 teams asserted they had witnessed a Yeti. Tales of the Yeti date back thousands of years. Some accounts even originate from the pre-Buddhist period, passed down through generations. One of the motivations behind establishing these rules was that both the Nepali and American authorities considered the possibility that Yetis might exist. Upon returning to the United States, Tom Slick suggested that there could be 3 distinct types of Yetis, one being of a supernatural nature, while the other 2 were believed to be real. He was convinced that no such creature existed. However, one evening, in the mid-1980s, an event made him question his belief. Hello everyone. In the late 2000s, in the mountainous region of Arunachal, at an altitude of approximately 12,000 feet, construction was underway for a military post and roadway for the Indian Army. A laborer assigned to the project ventured into the nearby marketplace for supplies. After making his purchases, he set off to return to the military site before nightfall. Hours went by, yet he failed to reach his destination. There was no trace of him throughout the night. The following day, a local traveler, passing along the same route with his horse, noticed the missing worker beside the road. He was sitting in an unusual posture. Initially, the passerby assumed the worker was intoxicated. Calling out to him yielded no reaction. As he drew closer, he observed that the worker's neck was severely injured and he showed no signs of life. He had passed away. His mobile phone and cash remained scattered nearby, indicating that this was not a robbery. Had it been a theft, his belongings would not have been left behind. The nature of his injury did not suggest an accident. If he had fallen, his body would likely have been found sprawled on the ground, rather than positioned unnaturally upright. Aside from the broken neck, there were no other visible injuries. Medical professionals later examined the remains and determined that such trauma would be extremely difficult for a human to inflict. The required force was immense. At the same time, it did not appear to be the work of a wild beast, as there were no claw wounds or bite marks. Residents claimed that law enforcement discovered a strand of hair on the body. Upon testing, it was confirmed that the hair did not belong to any known human or animal species. Authorities also came across an unusual footprint nearby, which led the locals to insist that it belonged to a Yeti. Residents maintained that region where the road was being constructed was an area often visited by the Yeti. They believed the creature was responsible for the worker's death. Fast forward more than a decade from this event to the spring of 2019. On a notable day in April, the Indian Army used social media to announce a groundbreaking claim. For the first time, an Indian Army mountaineering unit asserted that they had come across tracks belonging to the fabled Yeti. These prints measured an astonishing 32 inches in length and 15 inches in width. The sighting reportedly took place at a base camp near Makalu, Nepal, in early April. Before this, reports of Yeti footprints had only been documented in the Makalu-Baru National Park. The Indian Army assured the public that they had documented the evidence through photographs and had submitted the findings to specialists for further scientific analysis. Could this be real? You may have seen mentions of the Yeti across social media, but is there any concrete scientific proof of its existence? Is the Yeti truly a mystical being, or is it simply a misunderstood creature? Let's uncover the truth behind this enigma. More and more individuals became eager to search for the Yeti. Observing this growing interest, in the late 1950s, the authorities of the United States and Nepal collaborated to establish certain rules. There were 3 key aspects. Firstly, Nepal's administration sought to generate revenue from this. They imposed a fee of 5,000 Indian rupees as a permit charge for those wanting to seek the Yeti. Secondly, hunting the Yeti was prohibited. Eliminating it in self-defense was permissible, but deliberate pursuit was not allowed. The Nepalese government permitted the live capture of a Yeti, but any caught specimen had to be handed over to the authorities. Thirdly, any findings or reports regarding the existence of the Yeti had to be submitted to the Nepalese government first. Approval from officials was necessary before releasing the information to the media. These were strict rules. Indeed, however, the most surprising aspect was that the Nepalese government itself was uncertain about whether the Yeti truly existed. One of the reasons behind enforcing these rules was that both Nepalese and American officials believed the Yeti might be real. Despite these official guidelines, numerous adventurers ventured into Nepal, embarking on expeditions to uncover the truth. Among them, 3 explorers stood out. These individuals made relentless efforts to unravel the mystery of the Yeti. The first was Peter Byrne, an Irishman dedicated to his quest. He participated in 5 separate journeys, spending a total of over 3 years in the Himalayas. During his explorations, he visited the Pangbosh Buddhist monastery, situated at an elevation of approximately 13,000 feet, which claimed to possess relics of the Yeti's hand and skull. To further his research, he requested the monastery's monks to provide him with the supposed Yeti's hand. However, his request was turned down, as the monks feared it would bring misfortune upon their monastery. Determined to obtain a sample, Peter persisted and in exchange for a donation, eventually acquired a single finger from what was believed to be the Yeti's remains. He traveled to India with this fragment, and with the assistance of his friend, actor James Stewart, he managed to smuggle it into London. James Stewart's wife, Gloria, hid the finger in her undergarments while carrying it to the British capital. Upon reaching London, Professor William Osman Hill analyzed the sample, only to discover that it was not from a Yeti but from a human. The second notable explorer was Reinhold Messner, a renowned Italian mountaineer, widely regarded as one of the greatest climbers alive. Prior to the mid-1980s, Reinhold dismissed the existence of the Yeti, labeling it as mere folklore and fiction. He firmly believed that no such creature roamed the mountains. However, an event in the late 1980s altered his perspective entirely. While following an ancient Tibetan route frequently used by local guides, he lost his way. At that moment, he encountered a massive, shadowy figure. He described seeing it standing upright, moving at speeds beyond human capability, and leaping between trees effortlessly. Reinhold claimed that, at one point, the mysterious being was just a short distance away from him. It remained still for a few moments before vanishing abruptly. He estimated its height to be around 7 feet. Following this eerie encounter, Reinhold became obsessed with the Yeti, dedicating over a decade to searching for it. After years of research, his conclusion was firm: there were no human-like, legendary snow creatures inhabited the mountains. He asserted that what people mistook for a Yeti was in fact the Himalayan brown bear. Before delving further into this, let's discuss the third notable researcher, Daniel C. Taylor. This American scholar authored a book titled Yeti, The Ecology of a Mystery. He'd, too, devoted many years of his life in pursuit of the Yeti. His primary area of interest was Nepal's Barun Valley, an area dense with thick forests and heavy rainfall. This region was so impenetrable that only a handful of people had ever entered it. Nepal's monarch advised Daniel that if he genuinely sought to uncover the truth about the Yeti, this jungle was the place to begin his search. Upon arriving there, Daniel discovered fresh tracks. Believing he had finally found proof of the Yeti, he was filled with excitement. Unfortunately, further investigation revealed that the footprints did not belong to a Yeti, but rather to a species of bear, a tree-dwelling bear. His research indicated that the footprints had claw marks, a feature absent in human-like creatures. This led him to the realization that the tracks must have belonged to an animal rather than a mythical beast. To confirm the exact species, he examined nests that were rumored to be Yeti shelters. In one of these sites, he discovered a strand of hair. A DNA analysis of the hair sample uncovered the true thief belonged to a unique bear species known as rock balu in Nepalese, commonly referred to as the tree bear. Taylor also provided an explanation for the famous 1951 photograph captured by Eric Schiff. He revealed that bears, when walking, tend to place their hind paws directly on top of the front paw prints. This creates the illusion that the creature is walking upright on 2 legs rather than on all 4s. Additionally, the front paw prints leave visible claw marks, but when the hind legs step on them, these marks can get pressed down, sometimes erasing them. As a result, the merged prints appear larger than usual, sometimes reaching up to a foot in length. Taylor pointed out that if one closely observes the so-called Yeti footprint images, they will notice faint claw impressions in the center of the prints, confirming that they were left by a bear rather than an unknown creature. He further noted that the Royal Geographical Society had 2 images taken by Eric Schiff. One clearly showed bear tracks, while the other, which went viral, was more ambiguous. Only the first image was widely publicized, fueling speculation and mystery. Earlier, in the late 1930s, during a covert mission to Tibet financed by the German authorities, zoologist Ernst Schaefer conducted an investigation. His conclusion was, the Yeti was non-existent. When locals claimed that a Yeti lived in the mountains, he set out with a rifle and shot what was believed to be the beast. Upon closer examination, Schaefer found that the creature was simply a Tibetan bear. Decades later, before his passing in the early 1990s, Schaefer penned a letter to Reinhold Messner, sharing his findings. Similarly, Sir Edmund Hillary, the first person to reach the summit of Mount Everest, spent months searching for the Yeti. In the end, he reached the same verdict. The Yeti was merely a myth, fueled by superstition. Recent studies have further reinforced this conclusion. In 2014, an Oxford University geneticist named Brian Sykes analyzed over 30 hair samples allegedly belonging to Yetis. All but 2 samples were found to originate from known animals such as bears and horses. The remaining 2 samples initially appeared to be from an unidentified species. However, upon re-examination by other scientists, an error in Sykes' analysis was discovered. Those 2 samples, belonged to a rare subspecies of the Himalayan brown bear. A separate study in 2017 conducted in New York reached a similar result. DNA tests were performed on multiple alleged Yeti specimens including hair, bones, and teeth. The results? 8 samples were identified as belonging to Asian black bears, Himalayan brown bears, or Tibetan brown bears, while one came from a domestic dog. In today's era of smartphones, where nearly everyone carries a camera, no concrete evidence of the Yeti has surfaced. Mystical creatures like the Yeti often stem from cultural folklore, passed down through generations. People believe in them because they grow up hearing these tales, but rather than chasing fictional beings, there is much to discover in the real world. The Himalayas are home to the endangered snow leopard, with only a few thousand left due to climate change. And who knows? Scientists estimate that 80 to 90% of Earth's species remain undocumented. Perhaps the true wonder lies not in myths, but in the extraordinary biodiversity that still awaits discovery.